Fabulous. Hello and welcome to Glyphosate Unsafe on Any Plate. The toxin, the history, and solutions. We are so glad that you are here. My name is Stephanie Dawn, and let me see if I can figure out how to, there we go. That's me. I am the mother of two teenagers. I am the former chair of the Million Mom Movement Council, the activist and education arm of Purium Health Products. And my colleagues and friends like to call me a radical detox goddess who healed breast cancer naturally. And I now support women to cleanse, detox, and avoid cancer, which is something we all want to be paying attention to in this day and age. I'm also a sacred business coach for women entrepreneurs. And I'm really excited to be joined by my colleague and friend, Nirankar Marangi. And Nirankar, I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
Beautiful. Hi, everyone. I know you have lots of places to spend your time. I'm grateful that you're here with us tonight. My name is Nirankar, and first and foremost, I am a nature lover. I am a mother of a 14-year-old teenage daughter who teaches me every day. I have spent many years in the allopathic healthcare world, and have also spent many years teaching yoga. And I come to this space as the founder and owner of a business called Get Well, Stay Well Naturally, where I adore guiding women to the magic that rests within their own bodies as wisdom, as guideposts for how to make decisions, how to be resonant with your purpose and in your life. So I am very grateful to be here with Stephanie and to be talking about this really important subject. And I would love to see how many of you, please put a 2 in the chat if you know what glyphosate is and why we're here tonight. Lots of 2s. Great. And then please let me know if this is new to you. Please just put a 1 in the chat if you have no idea why we're here and what glyphosate is. Just getting a pulse of those of you out there. Okay, so many of us know what's happening. Great. Well, our intention really is to educate tonight. And I'm excited to take this subject and let you know why I'm so passionate about it. And certainly Stephanie can speak for herself in terms of why she's so passionate about it. But we are going to reiterate what glyphosate is, why, what it does, and why it's used out there, and how it affects your health, what you can do about it. It not only affects your health, but all of our, every single one of us. There's not one of us who isn't touched by it. And then also at the end, we really intend to renew your trust in your own body's ability to regenerate and to transform and to heal. And so, Stephanie, go ahead. We can maybe just, yeah, great. So let's start in the early, we're going to start way back to what was happening in 1950 when this molecule, essentially this combination of chemicals was put together by a man who was actually in search of pharmaceutical answers to disease. And so he stumbled upon this glyphosate. And at that time, he knew that it was a water-soluble formulation and that it was not to be taken lightly. And at that time, there really wasn't any use for it in terms of the pharmaceutical industry. And so it kind of sat over here for a while. And then Monsanto is a large company that was started in 1901, actually, by two men. And Monsanto at that time was known for taking chemical formulations and beginning to use them mostly in the agricultural world. And Monsanto, if you look back at the history, they were responsible for taking up things like saccharin and Agent Orange and DDT and many chemicals that man-made chemicals that have been used in some cases in warfare or in agricultural uses, specific uses. And so kind of fast forward, Monsanto picked up this formulation in 1970 and patented it as glyphosate. And that's the time that it began to be used in our agricultural world. And so I think we got a little bit out of order, but go ahead and advance the slide, Stephanie. And then, yeah, we're missing, so I'll trust the process here. In so from 1970, they started using glyphosate as an herbicide widely on farmland. And at that time, as an herbicide, it was used to kill weeds. So right before GMO crops were introduced, so genetically modified crops were designed to resist glyphosate. So those crops would live when glyphosate was sprayed on the farmland. And just before that, farmers were using 40 million pounds of glyphosate on our farmland. But then once GMO crops were introduced, then that number jumped in 2004. By the time 2014 hit, then they were using 290 million pounds of this herbicide. And so that kind of sets the stage for a bit of its history. And now I think we'll go into what it actually is. So let's see this, it'll be a surprise. What's the next slide?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm going to pass the baton back to Stephanie and then, yeah.
Yeah. So I just want to share the previous data that Nirankar was just reading. You will be receiving the sources of that in an email tomorrow, and I'll be sharing more about that in a moment. But we're gonna go from 2014 to 2015 now, when the WHO's International Agency for Research on Cancer, called IARC for short, determined that glyphosate is a probable human carcinogen. And then that same year, they found that 93% of Americans tested had glyphosate in their urine. And it has also been found in our soil, our rainwater, and the umbilical cord and placenta of newborns. So we can say confidently that it's omnipresent in our world. And then if we're looking at, the following year, the 2016 report called the same name as this event, Glyphosate Unsafe on Any Plate. This is the PDF. You'll be getting a PDF version of this in an email tomorrow. They tested a number of, probably about 20 to 30 products, American products in 2016. And Cheerios, the beloved Cheerios and Honey Nut Cheerios, produced by General Mills, was found to have the highest parts per billion of all the products tested, over 1,000 parts per billion. And when you contrast that to the fact that rats begin to have liver damage at 0.5 parts per billion, you might start to just be feeling a little bit alarmed that we're actually paying for this toxic food. So then, oops. So, oh, geez, I'm so sorry. This is what happened the last time. How to go backwards, Nirankar. Here we go. So there's the report, and many other beloved snacks, American snacks. I did it again. Oreos, goldfish, all the little foods that kids like to put in their mouths, right? So then we fast forward to 2018, and this was a really big deal for me. I was working with our superfoods company, and I knew of this fellow, Dwayne Johnson, and the fact that he was dealing with what's known as the farmer's cancer, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. What I wasn't expecting was to hear that it was a big, big court case. What I wasn't expecting is that he would win and be awarded $289 million by Monsanto/Bayer, because the corporation, the multinational corporation Bayer, which you might know, Bayer Aspirin, purchased Monsanto just a few years ago, I think 2017, 2018. Okay, so Nirankar, back to you.
Great. So when you receive what you will receive in the mail tomorrow will have these graphs. So I really just put them up. You'll notice that they go up until 2010. And I really always come from the place of what's the information and what's most resonant in my body. Can we definitively say that glyphosate is the cause of these rise in illnesses, these chronic illnesses? And that's just the question that we're asking ourselves at this point. But these are some graphs that indicate the use that look at when glyphosate was introduced and then tracking some of these chronic diseases. And so here I chose the graph of diabetes in the printout that you'll receive tomorrow. It has multiple diseases, not just the 4 that I've included. So there's been an uptick in diabetes, an uptick in intestinal infections. Go ahead, Stephanie, if you can. And certainly an uptick in autism, and then dementia or Alzheimer's. And so I've highlighted those 4. There's also a graph that indicates an uptick in cancer, and it correlates pretty beautifully to when glyphosate was introduced and then the reaction from that point on. And I believe, okay, so there's what I really want to highlight here today is that this is, there isn't an isolated, I believe that the body is, as a part of nature, is very intelligent and beautiful at self-healing, self-regeneration. And I think what you'll see here is that nature itself is trying its best to keep a balance for us. And that's what she always wants to do. And so it's I feel as if even though we're presenting these chronic diseases, we all know that it's complicated, that there are other factors, that our environment, our own DNA, our stress level. There's so many EMFs. There's heavy metals. There are, it's a very complicated. Health is not straightforward and linear. It's mysterious, and so there's lots of things playing a role here that I want to make sure I presence. And here are also some pretty fascinating ways that glyphosate can affect your health and mine and our loved ones. So first, there was a discovery. Well, the shikimate pathway occurs, this is part of why. Well, let me back up a little bit. I thought there was a slide here somewhere that talked about what glyphosate is, and for some reason it's out of order, but I'm just going to run down. It's an herbicide, but it's also a chelator. And so before it was used as an herbicide on our farmland, it was actually used between 1950 and 1970. It was used to pull metals out of pipes. So it was like used to clear out, as if you were going to wash out a straw. It was used to clear out any metals that had built up. And so it, first and foremost, is a chelator of minerals, iron, copper, those sorts of minerals. It's very good at pulling that out of whatever it comes in contact with. And so the shikimate pathway, actually, Monsanto has been using this over the years, saying that it's not damaging to humans because it does. Yes, there's a whole list. I just saw it was patented as an antibiotic, a chelator, an herbicide, and there are others. And so the shikimate pathway happens in microorganisms and plants. And essentially it's a 7-step process that, when you break it down in very simple terms, it is responsible for the building blocks, creating the amino acids that make the plant strong, that create the ability to communicate between cells. And so what's been proven is that glyphosate plays a role in disturbing this shikimate pathway, which is why it's used as an herbicide. So it takes the plant and it has the ability to weaken it by this process. Okay, so I talked about the chelation of minerals. Now in our system, what this shikimate pathway, what this tells me, is that anything that we're eating that has come in contact with glyphosate, including our soil, then has had their amino acids affected and their minerals affected, because glyphosate is doing both. So another thing that it does in the human body is that the digestive system is, from the mouth all the way through, is a very thin layer of cells that it's designed for absorption. And so it has the ability to also compromise the tight junctions within our digestive system, and not just through our gut microbiome in our belly, but also it compromises the protective barrier that the blood-brain barrier. So same thing, it gets into the bloodstream and then it affects the blood-brain barrier. So all of this is to say that it interferes with, so there's tight junctions, and I'll get to in a minute. I think the next slide will show you what I mean by tight junctions. And then there are gap junctions, and tight junctions are actually the physical the ability to block things coming through, nutrients coming through the system. But then gap junctions are about communication, cellular communication between cells. And so these are all compromised when we're repeatedly introducing glyphosate or exposed to glyphosate over many years. And so the damage, and then there's the damage to the gut microbiome, and that's one that we hear about a lot. And so the gut microbiome has three very important vital functions. We assimilate nutrients through this gut microbiome, we eliminate toxins through this gut microbiome, and then our immune system is activated in this same area of our body. And so that's why the use of glyphosate is so important to us health warriors. So let's see what the next slide shows, Stephanie. Okay, so this is a slide that also shows, so this is the lining that I'm talking about. You can see that there are the physical effects it has for the microvilli, that these little fingers in your gut microbiome, that it's beginning to have an effect all the way on the left with the tight junctions, and then all the way on the right with the gap junctions, which are more responsible for the communication. So there's physical consequences of leaking through the gut, but then there's also these energetic consequences of the cells not being able to communicate well together. All right, beautiful. Next slide. So I wanted to just make sure I spoke about the relationship between what nature is trying to do. So I believe in 2012, there was a discovery of some fungi and bacteria that were really doing their best to combat the presence of glyphosate in the soils. And so when genetically modified foods were introduced, and this uptake or this drastic increase in glyphosate happened, then it's water soluble. So now it's not only in the soil, but the soil runoff goes into the rivers, into the water systems, and then evaporation happens, and then it ends up in our rainwater, and also in the particles, the water particles in our air. And so nature is trying to do her best to clean her system. But what glyphosate does in our own physical body and in the process of Mother Nature is it stresses the system out. And so now we have this constant that our body in our immune system is needing to balance, to find a way to work with, because that's what nature does. And so, but it's pervasive, it's out there, it's very hard to avoid. Okay, next slide. All right, I'm going to pass it to you, Stephanie. And before I do, I wanted to just make sure I say that we don't know if some of these discoveries hadn't happened at the cellular level, then we wouldn't know. There would be, even though it's pervasive, we really have no concrete way of knowing that this is out there. And so I think this story will kind of share a little bit more about that.
Thank you so much, Nirankar. So this is my precious young man. He's currently 16 years of age. And my boy was I thought he was suffering from a compromised gut. I didn't quite know what was wrong with him, but there was always something wrong with him related to his stomach. And right around the age of 7, he was he came down with consistent, persistent nausea, diarrhea every single day for a week, and I was really worried. And so I reached out to a friend of mine who is a health coach, and she gave me some really good advice. She said to remove the he was eating like organic bagels. He was eating, she said, remove corn, remove anything that would further exacerbate his gut. And I did. And and then I found a solution that I gave him for a week. And within a week, I had my healthy boy back. So my work around glyphosate education has really been inspired by what happened to my son. And the fact that I fed him Cheerios for the first 7 years of his life, it was one of his first foods, Cheerios and bananas. Really, I connected the dots immediately. And I was like, this boy has a compromised gut because he's been poisoned unknowingly by me. So I really feel a responsibility to help mothers and people who care about children to understand the widespread use of not just this. I mean, this is the most widely used herbicide in the world, but there are many toxic herbicides and pesticides being used on our food. And we as consumers, we as people who care about our children and health, we really need to know all that Nirankar and I have been sharing with you tonight. And then what you're going to be receiving 3 documents tomorrow in the email that'll help you do your own research. But you know, that's my story about my beloved child. And I don't want this to ever happen to another parent ever. I don't want anyone to go through what I went through with Zephyr.
Thank you, Stephanie. Yeah. I think that what comes up for me around your story is also that that we are each affected by these toxins in different ways. Like there's not, there isn't this definite, sure, there's an effect on the gut microbiome, but that can manifest in so many different ways. And so beginning to really be able to tune in to our children, to our own bodies, and take and be consumers that pay attention is, I think, really what we together as a community are trying to are helping people to realize, is that we need to have our eyes wide open to what our bodies are telling us and how we can begin to help nature and our bodies work with and work against these toxins. So we wanted to really educate you around this topic and also offer a few solutions. So one of the best solutions is to know your farmer and to see what their practice is in terms of their soil use, or their soil practices. Are they organic? Are they regenerative in nature in terms of how they rotate their crops? And that's certainly not possible for all of us. But if you don't know your farmer, then begin to do a little research on where on how conscious the companies are. You know, there is a glyphosate free label that I've seen on a certain like 1 degree oats, and I think that company for sure. And so begin to really look at what you're buying. You know, use your dollars to vote. And then avoid any GMO or non-organic grains the best you can. And so soy and corn and wheat, there's a reason why there's a lot more allergies out there with regard to these types of foods. And as a health coach, I know that saying avoid them right off the bat isn't always easy for people. So, what I would suggest is adding in things that your body absolutely loves and craves and it thrives on. And then you'll begin to just release the corn, release the soy in um, in the nature of how your body works. So then strengthen your detox pathways through your lymphatic system and through your digestion, that these are ways to, you know, move more and strengthen all of your detox pathways. And that's the person who invited you here can help you with all of these aspects. And if you're like, what does that mean? How do I strengthen my detox pathways? Well, one, you know, hydration is big. So begin to stay well hydrated. Most of us may drink a lot of water, but that doesn't necessarily mean we're well hydrated. And so that is one thing that strengthens our detox pathways. And then add in foods that are detoxifying in nature. Cilantro, seaweed are just two examples. There are many, many, many foods that will help the body heal the gut microbiome and once you're avoiding certain foods and beginning to introduce others and a variety of foods, then you will begin to strengthen your gut and then reduce your toxic load. So that is everything from what you use on your skin to what you choose to eat to you know, what you choose to watch and what kind of stress you allow yourself to be in. Those are all contributing factors to your toxic load. So next slide, Stephanie. Okay. So whoever invited you either to this live or to shared the replay with you really cares about you. That's why we're sharing this information. We are wanting to, you know, I was a part of the healthcare field for 25 plus years, and I always wanted to be a part of the solution. And we all know that that wasn't quite the jam in that setting. You know, but to actually be in a setting where I can now educate and be a part of the prevention of some of these major diseases is really heartwarming for me. So the person who invited you is also affiliated with a company who is working very diligently on a solution. And so I encourage you to check out the detoxproject.org. It is an organization that was started to begin to eliminate toxins from our environment, or at least educate about them. And so they have a very prestigious certification that there's only one product on the market who claims to release glyphosate from the system that has been certified through the Detox Project, and that is Biomedic. And so Biomedic is a grouping of 4 specific ingredients that helps to reconnect these tight junctions. It helps to bring glyphosate, chelate glyphosate out of the system through the detoxification pathways that the body knows exactly what to do with. It's very gentle. And it, as I said, is the only certified product that we know of through the Detox Project that does this exact thing. We do know that there's been a small clinical trial that has proven this, that it has reduced glyphosate in 6 weeks up to 74%, and it has also changed the C-reactive protein that is existent in the liver, which is an indicator of inflammation through the system. And so this is one thing that unites many of us on this call, is that we would like for people to also know about this solution.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Nirankar. So we're so grateful that you joined us here today. And I just want to reiterate that you're all going to be receiving the PDF version of this hard copy book. If you want the hard copy, just ask the person that invited you and they can get you a copy. You're also going to be receiving not just the namesake of our event. This is the 2016 report that was absolutely incendiary to big agriculture, glyphosate unsafe on any plate. But you'll also be receiving the 2022 PDF, The Poison in Our Daily Bread, which is an update on a whole bunch of different products in the United States that have glyphosate in them that you want to know about. So thank you so much for joining us. We hope that you'll take this information and take action for yourselves and for your loved ones and for your community. That's our highest intention. Thank you so much, Nirankar, for being here with me tonight and for your passion around this topic. All right. All right. Yeah.
I'm happy to stick around for any questions.
Yes, we're happy to open it up for questions.
Do you want to drop off the slide? Yeah, there you go.
There we go. You are so welcome. Any questions at all? Well, if not, then we will say goodnight.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time. All right. Good night.